Hi there, this is Solitary Ronin from Solitary Ronin Films, and welcome to another episode of my Consecutive Criterions, where I just show off runs of at least 3 films with consecutive Criterion spine numbers. Obviously I'm not Criterion complete, otherwise this would be one very long video. So today I'm going to just highlight numbers 385, 386 and 387. Now if you're spine number 387, you might find yourself being a little bit intimidated by spine number 385 and 386. But don't you worry, spine number 387, you're excellent in your own right, but unfortunately 385 and 386 are perhaps on another level completely. As we know, Criterion Collection is full of lots of different kinds of films. It has some films that perhaps you don't like, or some films you don't really connect with, some films that are good, some films that are very good, some films that are great, some films that are classics, and some films that are next level films that are in the conversation for being in the top 10 greatest films of all time. Heavyweights, true heavyweights, and spine number 385 and 386 are certainly that. If we were to create a space rocket and put examples of what cinema should be, what cinema can be, the greatness of cinema, 385 and 386 would certainly be candidates to stick in that rocket ship. Honestly, I'm not picking on 387 because 387 is excellent in its own right. So 385 is Army of Shadows by Jean-Pierre Melville. It's not much else to say. This recently finally got a Region B Blu-ray release from Studio Canal, their World Cinema line. This is a Region A Criterion Blu-ray from 1969. It's the greatest film about the French Resistance. Melville was in the French Resistance for a time, so this isn't Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie in Allied. This isn't Daniel Craig in the French Resistance. This is authentic, this is brutal, but still poetic and beautiful. Lino Ventura, Jean-Pierre Cassel, Paul Maurice, Simone Signoret. Everything's grey, there is no black and white. Heroes and villains are terms that aren't really in this film. Also, I'd like to talk about the Germans, obviously. 145 minutes doesn't seem like that. There's not actually a lot of dialogue. You don't need that much dialogue. It's full of set pieces and atmosphere. It's got one of the most bleak endings, sobering endings, somber endings. I mean, it's a somber film. Again, it's one of those beautiful, horrible films. But there's not a lot of films that can hold a candle to it. It's just absolutely tremendous. This Criterion Blu-ray, as you'd expect, has a booklet, but it has a commentary from 2006 featuring the wonderful Jeanette Vonsondeux, who does a lot of Studio Canal French film releases, introductions and commentaries. So I'd highly recommend that because Jeanette Vonsondeux is fantastic. It's an interview from 2007 with Francois Bonnet. On-set footage and excerpts from archival interviews with Jean-Pierre Melville, cast members, author Joseph Cassel and real-life resistance fighters. Jean-Pierre Melville at Arbre d'Ombre in 2005, a short programme on the director and his film. Le Journal de la Résistance, terrible French attempt there, from 1944, which is a rare short documentary shot in the front lines during the final days of the German occupation of France. There's a restoration demonstration, trailers. Yeah, it's one of those absolute masterpieces. Again, we throw the word masterpiece around a lot, and a lot of the time it isn't fitting. It's certainly fitting with Army of Shadows. One scene never forgotten. And 386, talking about masterpieces, it's only Sancho the Bailiff, or Sancho Deo, by Mizoguchi from 1954. 124 minutes. Again, talk about bleak and brutal. Doesn't get much more bleaker or brutal than Sancho the Bailiff. Again, Mizoguchi, very much like Ozu, is another filmmaker that I really need to watch more of his films. As we know, the Artificial Eye box sets and the Eureka box sets of Mizoguchi are ridiculous prices. So I've really only seen the big three, Sancho Deo, Getsu Monogatari and Life of a Haru, which are all fantastic. But again, Sancho the Bailiff is in the argument for top 10 greatest films of all time. And it's not even close. Just how war and life can just tear families apart, and individuals in the face of a machine of the state. Again, 124 minutes. It seems longer, but in a good way. It seems like an epic film that is kind of set over years. Yeah, it's just a film that you can't take your eyes off of. Characters you care about, which again isn't necessarily the case for every film you watch. And again, this has a really big, thick book. This is a Region A, but I think it was recently released in Region B, in the UK as well, in Criterion, which it should be because it is one of those tentpole films that is just absolutely brilliant and everybody should see. This is a high definition restoration. There's a commentary with Japanese literature scholar Jeffrey Angles. There's an interview with Tado Sato, who's a critic, assistant director Tsuzoku Tanaka and actress Kyoko Kawaga on the making of the film and its lasting importance. And there is a fairly hefty booklet, as I said. So this is a Region A Blu-ray, but I'm sure it is available in Region B now as well. Again, a film that is a true masterpiece in every level. Now we get to 387, which again, I'm not picking on 387 because, well, it's actually two films for Spine Number 387. One of them just as important and as influential. But both these films are brilliant. And again, I may be being a little bit unfair, but just because 385 and 386 are, ridiculous, But Chris Marker's La Jetée and Sans Soleil. Also La Jetée, the little short 27-minute time travel film, which has got still photography, with one exception, obviously a huge influence on 12 Monkeys by Terry Gilliam. And Sans Soleil, one of those films, very much like the Qatsi trilogy, just kind of viewing the world and the different peoples and the different cultures and the different things we do as human beings, to try and explain ourselves. Both films, one from 1963, one from 1983. Sans Soleil is 103 minutes. Chris Marker, if you want to go and learn about some more Chris Marker, I recommend Nazrin Prod's channel. He did a Chris Marker series. This is a Region B Blu-ray. Again, another hefty booklet. Again, that's the thing with Criterion. Some of their booklets are just kind of leaflets, or kind of fake newspapers, or they come in kind of different guises and different shapes and sizes. But certainly Sancho Deu and La Jetée Sans Soleil both get hefty books in them. Both these digital transfers approved by Chris Marker, 2 interviews with filmmaker Jean-Pierre Gorin, Chris on Chris, a video piece on Marker by filmmaker and critic Chris Dark, 2 excerpts from the French television series, Core Circuit, a look at David Bowie's music video for the song Jump They Say, inspired by La Jetée, and an analysis of Hitchcock's Vertigo and its influence on Marker. Here you go again with Hitchcock's Vertigo, I don't know. Junkopia, a 6-minute film by Marker, Frank Simone and John Chapman about the Emeryville mudflats. And again, that rather large booklet, which features an essay by Marker scholar Catherine Lupton, an interview with Marker, notes on the films and filmmaking by Marker, and more. So it is well worth picking up. I'm sure quite a lot of people watching this will have seen both these films and loved both these films. So that's, this might be the best 3 spine number run in the Criterion collection. I'm not quite sure. I'll have to double check with that. But Army of Shadows, Sancho Deu and La Jetée and Sans Soleil is a pretty impressive trio. But again, that's just my opinion. And obviously my opinion is not fact. So thanks very much for watching this heavy duty version of Consecutive Criterions. Please let me know what you think of 385, 386 and 387. And you can maybe name your 3 consecutive Criterions by numbers that are better than those 3. And hopefully you'll join me again for more episodes as I go through my consecutive runs of Criterions. This is Solitary Ronin from Solitary Ronin Films, saying farewell.